Okay, we're going to talk about some of the most disappointing situations that you had in 2022 and seeing if there's any hope for next season. I'm not going to lie. A lot of these spots are gross and I think are only going to get worse. But before we get into anything, make sure you go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you ever want to check out any of these player props, they have them every single week. If you want to be able to get into a draft with us on the live stream, you know, we drafted a ridiculous amount of underdog drafts this year. Ended up looking like we may win 2 high stakes tournaments for $150,000, which is very exciting. You can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the description of this video and in the comment section. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, and you are going to get our 2023 Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings. One last announcement: Flock meetup, Zilker Park, 2 p.m. January 14th. Make sure you are there. But I think that should be about it. Let's go through, let's dive into this, and let's start it off with a Mr. Zach Wilson, where this season, if you looked at the games with Zach Wilson versus without Zach Wilson, it was a night and day difference for the New York Jets. It was a night and day difference for Garrett Wilson himself. We already know Zach Wilson was so damn bad that if we're going to go through and look at his adjusted yards per pass attempt mark, in my opinion, this is by far and away the best way to evaluate a quarterback if we are looking at the numbers. Now, of course, everybody has their own eye test. Everybody can watch the games in their own right. But if we're just going to boil his season down to the numbers of that adjusted yards per pass attempt, 6.2. The only quarterbacks to be that bad or worse were Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray, I think, is a little bit of an outlier here, given the fact that he provides so much value on the ground, and that's not going to be accounted for in this statistic. Carson Wentz, Davis Mills, and a rookie Kenny Pickett. And with Kenny Pickett, trust me, I'm not that excited about the future after his rookie season, but hell, we can say, okay, well, he was a rookie. Realistically speaking, what were we expecting from Pickett? But if we're going to go through and compare Zach Wilson to a couple of the other quarterbacks you had in this offense, we've seen Mike White start 4 games. And in those Mike White games, the man averaged 298 passing yards per game. That was over 100 additional passing yards per game compared to what you had with Zach Wilson. We saw Joe Flacco come in. Joe Flacco is providing this offense more passing volume than Zach Wilson. We all saw in prime time scenarios, Zach Wilson just melt. Zach Wilson looking like arguably one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the worst quarterback in the NFL. And I'm willing to say he has no hope, because if we take a step back, if you go back and look at his rookie season, this is a continued trend here. And we saw Trevor Lawrence break that rookie season to year 2 trend, and a coaching staff change was the number one reason for that. But with Zach Wilson, because the other quarterbacks in the same scenario were able to exceed what Wilson did himself, I don't think this is an Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars situation for the New York Jets. No, this is a respectable coaching staff. They have the Jets winning football games. We go back to see what Zach Wilson did his rookie season, 5.3 adjusted yards per pass attempt. It was so bad we were willing to throw it in the towel on Zach Wilson last season. Now, realistically speaking, if we're sitting here, I can't tell you, okay, go sell Zach Wilson. Yeah, go sell Zach Wilson, get a late 2023 first. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do that. Nobody is buying Zach Wilson. So it's an interesting spot for us to have an actionable take from here. What I would say is maybe it shouldn't be buy or sell. Maybe it should be, if you have him on your roster, you need to be very realistic with the expectations going forward. If he is able to go to another organization, then maybe there is the tiniest, and I repeat, tiniest amount of hope you are ever going to find. But in reality, that hope's probably unwarranted. He's definitely not having a future with the New York Jets. If you just listen to the fan base when they bench the man, they go wild. Now, going over to our next quarterback, Malik Willis, someone that throwing the towel on. I mean, if we're going to be looking at Malik Willis here, I thought he was exciting from a fantasy football perspective. Once he fell in the NFL draft, we said, okay, well, the NFL clearly knows way more than we do with quarterback evaluations. So we're going to listen to the NFL teams. We're going to see that most likely Malik Willis is going to be bad. Most likely Malik Willis isn't going to be anything, but he's still at the outside chance to be an average starting NFL quarterback, but a great fantasy option given his rushing upside. Well, we saw a few games with Malik Willis under center, and the Tennessee Titans offense was atrocious. I mean, yes, they had the game where they go to overtime against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that game was close. But I mean, in reality, the man had 80 passing yards. You can't be a starting NFL quarterback throwing 80 passing yards in a game. We saw him in another game starting against the Houston Texans. In that game, he wasn't able to get 200 passing yards either. I know Tannehill's future is up in the air in Tennessee, but definitely Malik Willis isn't the answer. Now, going over to the New England Patriots, I don't want to say that Mac Jones is never going to be a good real-life quarterback. I think Mac Jones very easily could turn it around. I think Mac Jones could be a good real-life option. But I'm ready to say from a fantasy football perspective, it's not happening. Because if you're going to be an effective fantasy football quarterback and you are not going to run the ball, then hell, we need to see a ton of passing volume. If we go through and pull up what you had from Mac Jones in year 2, not much improvement at all from year 1. If we're going to be looking at the adjusted yards per pass attempt, actually came down from 7 adjusted yards per pass attempt year 1 to 6.5 his next season. He actually decreased his passing yards per game. Obviously, we know as a rusher, he is just getting you absolutely nothing. He hasn't even hit 100 rushing yards so far this season. If we're going to look at quarterbacks that averaged fewer passing yards per game than Mac Jones this year, you have Tannehill, Dalton, Heineke, Davis Mills, Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, Lamar, Kenny Pickett, Baker Mayfield, Jacoby Brissett, Marcus Mariota. And I don't really see how this situation gets much better going forward, because if you're going to be looking at this set of free agent wide receivers, there's nobody to really bring in. I mean, the free agent wide receivers are bad. If you're looking at any of the names on the list and you're excited, I don't know what's wrong with you. And at the same time, maybe you say, okay, well, Mason, maybe the Patriots can go through and maybe they can take someone in the NFL draft at wide receiver. But if we go through and look at the history of Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots drafting wide receivers, this year, Tyquan Thornton, second round. Previous year, Trey Nixon, last round, doesn't really matter. 2019, you had N'Keal Harry. 2018, Braxton Berrios. 2016, you had Malcolm Mitchell. 2013, you have Aaron Dobson, Josh Bryce. You cannot find a single solid New England Patriot drafted wide receiver. In last time was 2009, Julian Edelman. This has been a team that's been horrendous at evaluating wide receivers coming into the NFL. So I don't see how they improve the situation for Mac Jones. Now, going over to Davis Mills, I don't even think we really need to talk about him. Yeah, Davis Mills, I know everybody got excited because he had a close game with the Los Angeles Chargers in his rookie season. People thought Davis Mills was going to be something. What the hell are y'all smoking? If you're looking at Houston, they had the number 1 overall pick. They're going to take Bryce Young. Davis Mills is not going to get a shot anywhere else. Please, for the love of God, don't go trade a second-round rookie pick in your Superflex league for Davis Mills, thinking that he's going to land somewhere. It's going to be a better spot. No, Davis Mills is done. Now, going over to someone I really wanted to talk about, let's look at the Denver Broncos in this Russell Wilson situation. Because if we are going to be looking at Denver, Russ is stuck. Okay, I don't even want to be focusing too much in on Russell Wilson. I want to more so look at the players that are going to be surrounding him, because we know for a damn fact that Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos next season. He'll be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos the year after that. I mean, at 35 years old in 2023, he's $107 million on the dead cap. 2024, at 36 years old, I don't think he's getting better at 36, $85 million on the dead cap. Even 2025, his age 37 season, $50 million on the dead cap. They would save $5 million from letting him go. Realistically speaking, the first time they can get out of this Russell Wilson contract will be 2026, when the man is 38. Now, of course, you don't need me to tell you that Russell Wilson was very bad this year. If we're going to be looking at adjusted yards per pass attempt mark, you had Russell Wilson only ahead of Justin Fields, who was also very bad, Tom Brady, who was also very bad, Mac Jones, Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Zach Wilson, Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray, Davis Mills, Carson Wentz, and Kenny Pickett. If we're going to be looking at the pass catchers here in Denver, I know a lot of people are now excited about Jerry Jeudy because Jerry Jeudy had some monstrous games down the stretch. And I've been leading the train of Courtland Sutton being horrible, of Jerry Jeudy being the actual wide receiver one here. And you were looking at a player that was 4 years younger, already the wide receiver one. No idea why people were valuing Courtland Sutton over him this season. But anyway, I'm not excited about Jerry Jeudy. If I find someone in one of my leagues that's excited about Jerry Jeudy in this situation, I'm fine shipping him off. I am fine giving him to them, because you have to look at the context in which Jerry Jeudy had a somewhat respectable season this year. I know he's still incredibly young, but you had Courtland Sutton missing a small stretch of games, and in that stretch of games, that's where we had the biggest Jerry Jeudy spikes. I mean, the same thing vice versa for Courtland Sutton. If Jerry Jeudy misses, then that's when you get the biggest Courtland Sutton spikes. It's not rocket science. But a very important thing here is if we looked at the depth of this wide receiver room in Denver, you had KJ Hamler coming off a significant injury. With KJ Hamler, the man missed the majority of the season. You had Tim Patrick going down right at the very beginning of the year. You saw 0 snaps with Tim Patrick in this offense this season. Their wide receiver 5 wasn't even able to play the entire year. Kendall Hinton only was able to start 5 games for this Denver Broncos team. So you're looking at a Denver Broncos roster that had no wide receiver 3, no wide receiver 4, and no wide receiver 5. I don't necessarily want to sit here and say, okay, when they get this depth back in, then Russell Wilson's going to be so much better. I don't think Russ is going to improve too much regardless. But what I do think happens is this wide receiver depth comes in and they siphon off some of that volume that both Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton were taking at the very top end of this offense. So I think this will be a bad offense. I think you will get more target competition next year for these wide receivers. So it's hard to be excited about anybody in Denver. Maybe when the dust settles and we can reevaluate the price tag of a Jerry Jeudy in Dynasty, maybe I change my tune on it. But at this point, where I've seen people valuing Jerry Jeudy, where I've seen people getting excited about him, I have a hard time following down that path. Now, I think that's all I got for you. If you enjoyed this video, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, and I hope to see you at the Flock Meetup, Zilker Park, Austin, Texas, 2 p.m. January 14th. And that should be it. I really do appreciate you, and I really hope you have a great day.